Well, it only took 2 weeks for the AP poll to realize that Missouri is not just a top 10 team, but they're nearly a top 5 team. And actually, they're going to have a pretty tall task at hand at Faurot Field when Boston College comes in undefeated. Will the Tigers remain the dominant force and the underdog for an SEC title? Can my Mizzou faithful rally and prove that this year is different? Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, bringing down everything that you will see as the Eagles take on the Tigers. Faurot Field, 11:45. Make sure that you like, rate, review, and hit subscribe down below. This is your number one source for all things SEC moving forward. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Make sure you're following us on all the social channels: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave on Twitter at Mach10 Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson. And to check out all of our great work, make sure that you visit SECUnfiltered.com. This episode of SECU is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the promo code SECU at sign up and get $50 instantly with your first $5+ bet. Guys, you're betting on players' lines. You're hitting the overs. You're taking the unders. You're actually paying attention to the games. And Prize Picks wants to give you 50 free bucks just for putting your name on the dotted line. So make sure that you use the promo code SECU at prizepicks.com. Dave, a new era of Eagles football. Bill O'Brien is back in Boston.
Wow.
And many of us believed that this was going to be a dude that could figure things out. I don't think we thought it was going to be this fast. Not only did you march on down to Tallahassee and silence the Seminoles, but now you get a 55-0 win over Duquesne last week. Buffalo comes on in. It wasn't the most dominant performance, but you still have yet to allow a point if you're Missouri's defense. This is why this game is a lot of fun. 11:45 kick. Game is going to be featured on SEC Network. Faurot Field going to be rocking and rolling. Dave, just early thoughts on Boston College.
You're right. I didn't get a chance to go watch the Duquesne game they played this week, but they looked like they handled them. But you're right. Everybody, I think, was tuned in watching that Labor Day matchup a week ago tonight against Florida State. Dude, that game was controlled by Boston College from the get-go.
Yep.
It wasn't even, I wouldn't say it wasn't close, but it never felt like Boston College, once it got to the second half, it's like, they're really going to go win this game. So I think Bill O'Brien in his first year fighting, I think a solid season would be if they can get to 6. They got Thomas Castellanos, the UCF transfer, heading over there. When I was at UCF, my last year in college football in 2021, that's who we signed. Ware County, Georgia, is from South Florida. It's funny enough, Florida State wanted him, but he wanted to play quarterback, but they were only offering him to be a DB. So it's kind of interesting. He got to go beat them his first, not his first start, he played last year, but first game with Bill O'Brien in Tallahassee. I think for Missouri, I got to be a little impressed too with the defense so far. Like overall, that'll be key how they handle Boston College, who handles kind of the spying. That's who will mean you kind of talk about players we're going to be interested in looking at. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But spying Thomas Castellanos, because that's what you got to factor in with him. They're not really going to go stretch the field with him. I mean, you saw it, Cole. I mean, Florida State couldn't defend the wheel route to save their life. I mean, Boston College left some meat on the bone on the scoreboard for missing some of those drop passes. But again, that'll be the key. So I don't really see Thomas. It's never been a strength of his stretching the field vertically. I think that's where Missouri, the key to that game will be. If they can contain his legs, I like Missouri here. But again, me and you texted about it last week, Cole. Missouri's schedule, myself included, I was wrong. I think we all thought we were wrong. Those first 4 games, we all just gave them a pass. A little bit to how we think Ole Miss's schedule. Boston College and Vanderbilt are a lot better than we all predicted preseason, at least as we stand right now. So I think this is an intrigue game. I think Eli Drinkwitz and his team's got to be excited a little bit. Like, hey, man, the Boston College isn't bad. Like, if this team's just going to come in and challenge us, let's see how good we are.
Dave, there's a little bit of a difference too. It's the number 24 ranked Boston.
Correct. They're ranked heading into this
so
one.
Now we talk about those prominent wins that you have to have against a Texas A&M, against an Alabama, against an Oklahoma. Well, now potentially you're getting 2 more teams to add in the mix because Vanderbilt looks night and day difference now that you have Clark Lee calling the defense and Diego Pavia is wheeling and dealing like the madman himself. And you also got, by the way, is it Thomas Castellanos or is it Thomas Castellanos?
He always referred, whenever I talk, Thomas Castellanos is what I would.
All right, so we're going with Thomas Castellanos. If you want to come for us in the comments section, Dave was the one that got him. So make sure that you go ahead and listen to him. I've been so impressed with him so far, though. Regardless of whatever you would call him, he has been the saving grace and really the backbone of this Eagles offense. 73% completion rating, 6 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. He has a passer rating of 259. He has 1 rushing touchdown, but he's averaging 5.6 yards per play on the ground. So you have to eliminate him if you are Missouri's defense. But also, let's talk about Missouri's defense. It does not feel like it has missed a beat. They have brought in new players. They have brought in a new defense coordinator with Corey Batoon. They bring in a new element, but they also feel like that this is one cohesive mark. Like the last 8 months have been about establishing a culture, establishing an identity, and more importantly, establishing a middle ground. We know that this is what is expected here in Como. We know that this is a matchup that you want to be able to deliver on, but we also know that we are speaking one direct unit. Nobody feels out of place. And it's a big reason why, even though it is Murray State, even though it is Buffalo, you're still pitching a shutout when you're talking about this defensive front.
The death row defense, Cole.
It is. It really is. But I think the other part that's really important here is that it's not just going to be Castellanos, however you want to say his last name. It's also the fact that they have Trayshawn Ward. Trayshawn Ward's been really good, averaging 6.6 yards per play. Kyle RHOBACK is averaging, I think it's like 4.5 yards per play. Turbo Richard, they got a good ground game. Lewis Bonnet, wide receivers, had a really good start to his career. Trayshawn Ward out of the backfield as a pass catcher has been really good. They know how to scheme up offenses that just go for not the explosive plays, but the consistent plays. That's really what you look at when it's Boston College right now. And maybe it's that NFL element that comes with B.O.B.
I was literally about to say that with Bill O'Brien.
It's just the fact that he knows how to win these matchups and set you up in manageable situations. That, to me, is going to be the key element for Missouri's defense in this game. Make Boston College play uncomfortable. Don't give them third and comfortable. Give them third and uncomfortable. Make sure that you take out one of those elements to where they have to go into their playbook and they can feel confident doing anything, whether it be an RPO, whether it be an option to the outside, whether it be a vertical pass down the field. Make them have to dial down their playbook to the bare minimum to where this is what you're given and this is all you got.
I agree, Cole. If Corey Batoon and that death row defense if they can win on first and second down and, like you said, get Thomas and you get Boston College just away, like just 3rd and 12 to 15, even 3rd and 10. Like that's not really where they want to play. I think Bill O'Brien would tell you that they don't really want to play in that. I think that should be Corey Batoon and Missouri's defense. I think it will be. I'm not reinventing the wheel with that. I think they're going to try to do that too. They can stop them on first and second down, get them in long situations that turns into potential turnovers. And Missouri's defense, I mean, I think since 1936, I was looking when I was prepping for this preview, since I think their first 2 opponents to 0 points, and they've given up 0 points after something before World War II.
Almost 8 decades. Let's just go with that.
Yeah,
and it's Corey Batoon. I think Baker doing it too.
It's just been a while. It's impressive. Like again, I think Missouri fans tell you there's still some questions, but again, I mean, it's been as good as it possibly can be through 2 weeks. I thought when I was watching the Murray State game, they looked a lot faster overall. I don't know if Ryan Russell, who I've worked with before, their strength and conditioning coach, is very good. He was at Auburn for a while, knows Eli through Gus, but he does a good job. You can tell they put on more mass. Overall, I'm with you. Overall, as a unit, they probably don't have the top to bottom just NFL personnel they had last year. But again, as a unit, it looks pretty good. They don't look as aggressive last year, and I think that's just part of Blake Baker's nature. I mean, you go look at LSU; they're a lot more aggressive this year too. So I'll be interested. I mean, you got who? You got Boston College this week, Vanderbilt, then A&M. I mean, Boston College out of those 3 offenses, Vanderbilt. I mean, right now could maybe cause you some of the more interesting challenges. So the next 3 weeks, it's going to get a little tougher depending on how A&M, maybe they're in their own vibe at that point a little bit. They're playing more comfortable in Colin Klein's system. But I think this is a good test. Good first test. Obviously, the best team, you said it, Cole. They ranked number 24 coming into it. And hell, Cole, you know this. The SEC needs a win over an ACC team.
Yeah, very badly. But also, here's the other part. It's a good test for your defense to kind of see what you're going up against when you face Diego Pavia. Two mobile quarterbacks that are going to be able to not rely heavily on their arm strength. They're going to rely on consistent, accurate passes and their mobility aspect. And so for you, if you are a defense and you are Corey Batoon, consider this the tune-up before facing off against Pavia. And Pavia, we've already seen, he's gone down to the wire and he's been able to beat you with his arm and his legs against a qualified Virginia Tech squad. Last week, 1 on the ground, not really as much through the air, but you started off with Castellanos and then you work it on Castellanos and then you move it on over. Let's talk about this offense. 38-0 win. You didn't find the end zone through the air. You did have an interception if you were Brady Cook, But you also watched as this isn't just a Luther Burden team. Burden leaves with an illness early in the game, doesn't come back out, 3 catches, 15 yards. So instead, we just turned to the number 1, number 2 in all of college football, Theo Wease. 13 catches, 149 yards, an average of 11.5 yards per play. And then you talk about the other guys. Mookie Cooper, 3 catches for 8 yards. Marquise Johnson, 5 catches for 52 yards. Big 20-yard game. Joshua Manning, 2 catches, 28 yards, a pickup of 18. They just know that they can win through the year if they have to. They have the weapons, they have the talent, and they also have the same energy. The thought that has always still been mind-boggling to me is that we already kind of just said last year was last year when it came to Mizzou. And we didn't really look fully in detail. The offensive line lost some pieces, but you also were able to regroup. You bring in Bryant, you bring in Caden Green, you fix your trench play, you get better at the running back room. You didn't lose a damn thing at wide receiver. And now Theo Wease has shown you time and time again, I can step up and be that number 1 if you need me to. I'm okay playing that number 2 role, but if you want me to be that number 1, I'll be that number 1. You're watching as Josh Manning can play that role. Marquise Johnson can play that number 2 role. So Luther Burden in Kirby Moore's offense is a human cheat code when you get him going. But the fact is that Brady Cook does not just have to go to that one pitch. He's got a 5-pitch arsenal in his disposal, and he can utilize it at any level of the field. And everyone has him as a assigned role. That certainly is a big reason why you look at this game. And even though you have Boston College now ranked, I still feel really confident in the direction that Missouri is going in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fired up if I was Drakowitz and this is who we were playing. Boston College winning that. It gets my team a little bit more focused. They're excited. Maybe going into the season, it was like Boston College. I couldn't even tell you who their head coach was. If you're a player, I'm talking about as a player, some of these guys. Now it's, oh, shoot, they're ranked. Coming into our house, you get a little bit more of attention. Something I want to pay attention to a little bit in this one, Cole. Maybe we probably will. Yeah, we'll definitely see it. It'll just depend. Luther Burden sounds like he's going to play. But Brady Cook being a little bit more, it's nothing to be concerned about yet. But in these big games, you leave some plays on the table, leave some meat on the bone. Let's be a little bit more consistent on your shots downfield when you have them. But those are some of the wide open threes that, like, for example, for a basketball, Steve Kerr set up a good screen, good play call, good set for Steph Curry's wide open in the corner and you miss it. That's how it kind of feels like a little bit like, man, dude, you usually hit that. We set you up. It's not going to probably hurt them in this game because I think Missouri's better than Boston College. Boston College better than they've been. I think Bill O'Brien's doing a solid job so far, but I think Missouri's the better team. But I don't know if it's going to come back to hurt you this week, but maybe when you're at Kyle Field, maybe it comes back to hurt you. Maybe when you're playing Oklahoma, maybe when you're in Tuscaloosa, it comes back to hurt you. I want to see a little bit more consistency at that third level down the field when those shots are there for Brady Cook.
I think the other thing that's really important is that you look back at that Boston College game. They were nothing on the ground when it was Florida State. They could do nothing on the ground, but through the year, they did average 13 yards per play. So you have the ability to be able to take those deep shots. You have the ability to play a little bit more clean ball if you're Brady Cook. I do want to see what this running back room can do. I have been very high on Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll. I think that they are the thunder and lightning complementary pieces that you want. One is going to win with the home run caliber speed once you get in the open field. The other one is like a pinball that is just rattling off the side of the corners and then shooting up the middle. And he's got a little bit of breakaway speed as well. That's a complementary offense that now takes pressure off of Brady Cook having to be the guy. And again, there's two ways to look at every element. Sometimes you look for quality. Sometimes you look for quantity. In a sense, they got both when they lost Cody Schrader. They lost the quality of player, but they got the quantity of two players that match his quality in Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel. This defensive line for Boston College is well above advertised. Currently opponents are averaging less than 1.6 yards per play. And again, it's the Dukes and it's Florida State's offense that's led by DJ Uiagalelei, who at this point, you might just want to wave the white flag and say, this is not working out for us. I mean, you heard fans, Doe Campbell saying, Brock Glenn, like they were calling for Glenn's name. And maybe that's what you got if you're Mike Norvell. But still, the fact that you're allowing just 1.4 yards per play on the ground, if Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel can set the tone early in this game, you're taking away another element for BC that only plays well into your favor if you're Missouri.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you were talking a little bit about Missouri being good, leaving a little bit on the table. I mean, I remember there was a couple of drop balls to the running backs out of the backfield a little bit on those first few drops they had against Florida State. So they left some meat on the table too. Now I'm fired up for this matchup. When I saw Missouri, when I saw Boston College beat Florida State last week, I was like, I think me, you, and Chris were talking about it. Text them like, dang, dude, Vandy just beat Virginia Tech. I'm kind of fired up. Missouri's schedule's a little tougher than it looked like it was going to be until their first bye week. So I think this could be a good test. I'm fired up to see this game because I think Bill O'Brien's going to have some good things schemed up. This is going to schematically at least test Corey Batoon.
It's going to be a matchup where I think that now it only strengthens your case if you are Missouri to be that last team in type of persona when it comes to the SEC. It also was a good test for Boston College because you feel like that there is the clear-cut favorite in the conference with Miami. And then there's 3 teams and 2 that really we hadn't been talking about in BC and Syracuse, now making those necessary adjustments in the offseason. And maybe they're alongside Clemson for that last wins. And so that's where you're at. Dave, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's get a prediction on in. 16.5 points is the line. Over under set at 54. 76.7% favorite for Missouri to walk away with the dub. What are you saying?
I'm going to go 34-14. Missouri. I'm going to go 34-14. I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be a good challenge, at least in the first half, how they handle Thomas Castellanos. I'll be fired up to really see that really across the board. I mean, I think a guy to keep an eye on a little bit, we're not talking about it, but is our guy Corey Flagg. Currently the Miami transfer, leads Missouri in tackles. Is he the spy? Somebody's going to have to spy. Somebody's going to spy Thomas. So I don't know if it's him, maybe Chuck Hicks, Tristan Newton, somebody like that is going to have to spy Castellanos. I'll be interested to see how they handle that. I think at some point adjustments comes in and Thomas's lack of ability to stretch the field vertically, them having probably a real threat outside that scares Missouri is going to be the ultimate deciding factor and why I think Missouri kind of runs away with it, sits and hides. Like you said, I think Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll, arguably, like you said, you could say quantity over quality. Them replacing Cody Schrader could be better overall for the team. But I think you see a lot of heavy dose of them in the second half. It's not a blowout, but I think Missouri's never in doubt. Missouri's never real uncomfortable, but I think it's good. I'm fired up for this game because I'm interested to see Bill O'Brien going against Corey Batoon here. Corey Batoon's first real power forward test.
Well, I disagree. I do believe this is a blowout. And it won't say that way on the scoreboard because, unfortunately, there is this thing called a late touchdown that will dictate the outcome. And
we're predicting a late score here.
But you think about this. Last week, Alabama and South Florida. You look at the scoreboard. You think, oh, Alabama handled business. No, they scored 21 points in the last 6 minutes. It was a back-and-forth brawl. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think what you're going to see is consistent third down stops by Missouri's defense. I agree with you. Corey Flagg, I think, is the X factor in this game of making sure that number one stays behind the sticks. They aren't allowing too many explosive plays when it comes out of the backfield on these swing routes. I think Toriano Pride's going to have a really big game in open field tackling. And then it comes down to what is established on the offensive side of the football, primarily when it comes to this run game. I think Boston College is ahead of schedule. I think that when you look at this team, they have an aura about themselves that believes they can play with the big boys because they have a big-time coach that has been at the highest level, and he knows how to develop them properly. But Rome wasn't built in a day. Boston College will not be back in 2 afternoons. You're going to see Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel truly elevate their status as premier running backs in the SEC. I think you will see a couple of better deep shots down the field for Brady Cook. I'm going to go final score being 41 to 20. I do believe that you will see a late touchdown given up by maybe the second team defense, but still, it's 41 to 20. You're never in doubt if you're Missouri. You're looking at this game as if it's 31 to 10, 38 to 10, and then eventually your starters are pulled. You go to your backups. You feel good with Pine coming on in. That's the setting, but your defense just gives up a late score. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to. But I do believe that Missouri is going to be sitting at 3-0, getting ready for conference play next week.
Yeah, so we're pretty similar on that. Missouri's never worried.
You're never in doubt.
It's a double-digit win. They cover.
You're never in doubt. I'm hammering the over, and I'm also hammering the over. I'm hammering the 16.5 points. But let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think of this matchup? Is Missouri actually going to have a top 25 win that they can just stick their chest out about? Will Eli Drinkwitz staying on business? Will he tell Bill O'Brien that's how we do things in Como? Make sure that you like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that also you're following us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave on Twitter at Mock10Sports. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson. And to check out all of our great work, make sure that you visit SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. MIZ, out!